The wind whispered secrets across the plains as me tinkered, the setting sun painting the dust devils in hues of orange and purple. Her small workshop, crammed with gears, springs, and half-finished contraptions, was her sanctuary, a place where metal obeyed her will. But Harmony Gulch, the town she called home, wasn't always so welcoming. Folks saw her as odd, a girl more comfortable with wrenches than ribbons, more at ease with blueprints than dances. She didn't quite fit, her mind always buzzing with ideas that the townsfolk couldn't understand. She tightened a bolt on her latest invention, a self-propelled wagon designed to ease the burden of farmers during harvest. It was brilliant, she knew, but the townsfolk just chuckled, calling it Me's folly. Loneliness gnawed at her, a constant ache in her heart. She yearned for someone who understood her, someone who saw the beauty in her creations, someone who didn't dismiss her as just a quirky girl. Little did she know that longing was about to be answered in the most unexpected way, delivered on the back of a fire-breathing beast of metal and steam. The arrival of the circus would change everything, turning her quiet life into a whirlwind of danger, passion, and a love as fierce as the dragon's breath. The first sign was the posters, plastered on every available surface. Professor Thornton's traveling circus of gears and wonders. See the mechanical marvels, witness the fire-breathing dragon. They were colorful and eye-catching, promising a spectacle unlike anything Harmony Gulch had ever seen. Me, initially dismissive, found herself strangely drawn to the images of intricate clockwork automatons and fantastical creatures. Then came the sounds, the distant rumble of wagons, the clanging of metal, and the faint, almost mournful music carried on the wind. The circus was arriving, and the entire town was buzzing with anticipation. Even the skeptical Sheriff Brody seemed to have a touch of excitement in his eyes, but amidst the general cheer, me felt a prickle of unease. The posters, while vibrant, seemed to hide something. The dragon's eyes, in particular, appeared cold and lifeless, lacking the spark of true wonder. And the way the circus folk moved, their smiles a bit too wide, their voices a bit too loud, struck her as artificial. It was as if they were putting on a show even before the big top went up. Something felt wrong, deeply wrong, and me couldn't shake the feeling that this circus, with all its gears and marvels, was hiding a dark secret. The dragon was a sight to behold, even from a distance. It was a behemoth of burnished steel and gleaming brass, easily 20 feet tall and 40 feet long. Gears whirred and pistons pumped, creating a symphony of mechanical motion. Steam hissed from its nostrils, and its eyes, though lifeless glass, seemed to follow every movement. It was a marvel of engineering, a testament to human ingenuity, and a terrifying display of power. Its scales were individual plates of metal, riveted together, catching the sunlight and reflecting it in dazzling flashes. Thick chains, blackened with soot, ran along its spine, leading to a complex network of pulleys and levers that controlled its movements. The air around it shimmered with heat, and the ground trembled with each step it took. But it was the dragon's breath that truly captivated and frightened. With a deafening roar, it would unleash a torrent of fire, a searing blast of heat that could melt steel. The crowd would gasp and cheer, awestruck by the spectacle, but me saw something different. She saw the potential for destruction, the raw, untamed power contained within that metal beast. And she couldn't shake the feeling that it was only a matter of time before that power was unleashed in a way that no one could control. The dragon wasn't just a marvel, it was a menace. Anya was a stark contrast to the roaring metal beast she was forced to inhabit. Her eyes, the color of a stormy sky, held a sadness that seemed to deepen with each passing performance. Her face, framed by dark, braided hair, was pale and drawn, a testament to sleepless nights and hidden tears. She moved with a grace that belied the heavy chains that bound her to the dragon's interior, her every gesture conveying a quiet desperation. During the dragon act, Anya was presented as the dragon tamer, a fierce warrior who commanded the mechanical beast with a flick of her wrist and a piercing gaze. But me, watching from the sidelines, saw through the charade. She saw the fear in Anya's eyes, the tremor in her hands, the subtle plea for help in her forced smile. Anya's costume, though elaborate and beautiful, seemed more like a prison than a garment. It was a shimmering gown of emerald and gold, adorned with scales and jewels, designed to mirror the dragon's magnificence. But beneath the finery, me sensed a vulnerability, a fragility that resonated deep within her own soul. Anya was trapped not just by chains, but by circumstances beyond her control, and me knew, with a certainty that burned in her chest, that she had to do something to help. The next day, me couldn't shake the image of Anya's face from her mind. She knew she had to see the dragon up close, to understand its workings and find a way to free Anya. So she bought a ticket to the afternoon performance, determined to get a better look. The circus tent was stifling hot and filled with the smell of sawdust, popcorn, and anticipation. Children shrieked with delight as clowns tumbled and juggled, and acrobats soared through the air with breathtaking grace. But me's eyes were fixed on the dragon, which stood silent and menacing in the center of the ring. As the performance progressed, me paid close attention to every detail. The way the dragon moved, the sound of its gears, the placement of its control panels. She noticed that Professor Thornton, a portly man with a handlebar mustache and a sinister smile, seemed to be the only one who truly understood how to operate the machine. He barked orders at Anya, his voice sharp and demanding, and Anya obeyed, her movements stiff and mechanical. Me's resolve hardened. She had to help Anya escape, not just from the dragon, but from Thornton's cruel control. This wasn't just about engineering, it was about saving a life. For the next few days, Me became a shadow, observing the circus from afar. She'd perch on rooftops, hide behind wagons, and even sneak into the restricted areas under the cover of darkness. Her trusty sketchbook was always with her, filled with detailed diagrams of the dragon's inner workings. She mapped out the flow of steam, the gears that controlled its movements, and the intricate system that ignited its fiery breath. She learned that the dragon was powered by a complex network of coal-fired boilers, and that its movements were controlled by a series of levers and pulleys located in a small compartment inside the dragon's head. She also discovered a crucial weakness, a single, poorly secured valve that, if tampered with, could disrupt the entire system. Me knew that disabling the dragon was only half the battle. She also needed a way to get Anya out safely. She studied the locking mechanism of the cage, noting its complexity and the specific tools required to open it. She spent hours in her workshop, crafting replicas of those tools, modifying them to be as small and discreet as possible. Her plan was risky, bordering on insane, but Me was determined. She wouldn't let Anya suffer another night in that metal prison. The night of the grand finale arrived, thick with anticipation and a nervous energy that crackled in the air. Me, disguised as a lowly stagehand in oversized overalls and a dusty cap pulled low over her eyes, slipped into the bustling backstage area. Her heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. The air was thick with the smell of grease, sawdust, and coal smoke. The sounds of the circus were amplified backstage, the blare of the trumpets, the roar of the crowd, and the ominous hiss of the dragon's steam. Me clutched her small bag of tools, feeling the weight of her makeshift lockpicks and wrench against her palm. She knew that one wrong move could expose her, but she couldn't turn back now. She watched as Anya was led to the dragon, her face pale but resolute. Thornton, his eyes gleaming with avarice, gave her a curt nod, and Anya climbed into the cage, the chains clanking ominously behind her. The crowd roared its approval, oblivious to the silent drama unfolding backstage. Me took a deep breath, steeled her nerves, and moved into the shadows, ready to put her plan into action. The finale was about to begin, and everything depended on her. The music swelled, the lights dimmed, and the dragon roared to life, its fiery breath illuminating the tent in a terrifying display. Me seized her opportunity. She slipped behind the dragon, her nimble fingers working quickly to remove a small access panel. The heat radiating from the machine was intense, but she pressed on, guided by her memory of the diagrams she had drawn. Inside, the gears whirred and pistons pumped, creating a deafening cacophony. Me found the crucial valve, the one she had identified as the dragon's weak point. With a deep breath, she inserted her wrench and gave it a sharp twist. A high-pitched squeal pierced the air, followed by a series of grinding noises. The dragon shuddered violently, its movements becoming erratic. The crowd gasped, thinking it was part of the show, but me knew that something was terribly wrong. The dragon was malfunctioning, and she had to act fast before it was too late. She hoped her tampering would buy Anya some time and not make things worse. The heat was intensifying, and the smell of burning metal filled the air. The dragon lurched, nearly throwing me off her feet. Smoke billowed from its joints, and the gears screamed in protest. Thornton, realizing something was amiss, bellowed orders, but the dragon refused to obey. Its head swung wildly, spewing flames in unpredictable bursts. Thinking fast, me scrambled towards the control panel, a tangle of wires and levers located near the dragon's underbelly. It was a chaotic mess, but she recognized the mechanism that controlled the direction of the flames. With a swift movement, she rerouted the system, diverting the fire away from the crowd and towards the open sky. A collective gasp swept through the audience as the dragon unleashed a spectacular torrent of fire, shooting high above the tent like a giant mechanical geyser. The flames illuminated the night sky, casting dancing shadows on the faces of the onlookers. It was a breathtaking display, a controlled explosion of raw power. Me had bought herself some time, creating a diversion that would allow her to reach Anya, but she knew that the dragon was on the verge of total collapse and every second counted. Ignoring the chaos around her, Me raced towards the front of the dragon, where Anya was trapped inside the cage. The metal was glowing red-hot, and molten droplets began to drip from the dragon's underbelly, sizzling as they hit the ground. Time was running out. She fumbled with her lockpicks, her hands trembling with adrenaline and fear. The locking mechanism was more complicated than she had anticipated, and the heat was making it difficult to concentrate. Sweat streamed down her face, blurring her vision. Suddenly, a searing pain shot through her arm. A glob of molten metal had splashed onto her skin, burning through her overalls. She gritted her teeth, ignoring the pain, and focused on the lock. With a final click, the tumblers fell into place and the cage door swung open. "Anya, get out of here," Me shouted, her voice barely audible above the roar of the dragon and the screams of the crowd. Anya, her eyes wide with fear and disbelief, hesitated for only a moment before scrambling out of the cage, her beautiful gown singed and torn. They had to get out now. The dragon was about to explode. Anya stared at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and wonder. In that brief moment, amidst the chaos and the danger, she saw something in me's eyes, a fierce determination and a genuine kindness that touched her soul. She reached out and took me's hand, squeezing it tightly. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "You saved me." Me simply nodded, her gaze fixed on the crumbling dragon. "We need to go," she said urgently, pulling Anya towards the exit. As they turned to flee, the dragon let out a final, deafening roar. A shower of sparks erupted from its core, followed by a series of explosions that shook the entire tent. The crowd screamed and surged towards the exits, a panicked mass of bodies. Me and Anya fought their way through the throng, dodging falling debris and leaping over overturned chairs. They knew that if they didn't get out soon, they would be trapped inside the inferno. But as they ran, Anya couldn't help but feel a surge of hope. She was free, and she was with someone who had risked everything to save her. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she had a chance at a real life. They burst out of the tent into the cool night air, gasping for breath and blinking in the sudden darkness. Behind them, the circus tent was engulfed in flames, a roaring inferno that lit up the sky. The sounds of sirens and panicked shouts filled the air. Me grabbed Anya's hand, pulling her towards the edge of town. "We can't stay here," she said, her voice urgent. Thornton will be after us." They ran, their feet pounding against the dusty ground, their lungs burning with exertion. They didn't stop until they reached the outskirts of Harmony Gulch, where the lights of the town faded into the darkness of the desert. They collapsed behind a cluster of jagged rocks, catching their breath and surveying the scene behind them. The circus tent was now a smoldering ruin, a testament to the destructive power of the dragon and the courage of two women who had dared to defy it. The flames cast long, dancing shadows, making the desert landscape seem even more desolate and unforgiving. But amidst the devastation, there was also a sense of freedom, a feeling that they had escaped something terrible and were now on their own together. The escape had been successful, but their journey was just beginning. They sat in silence for a moment, catching their breath and listening to the sounds of the desert night. The wind whispered through the rocks, carrying with it the scent of sagebrush and the distant howl of a coyote. The flames from the circus still illuminated the sky, casting an eerie glow on the surrounding landscape. "Where do we go now?" Anya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Me looked at her, her eyes filled with a mixture of determination and concern. "I have a small cabin a few hours from here," she said. "It's not much, but it's safe. We can stay there for a while, figure out our next move." Anya nodded, trusting me implicitly. She had no idea what the future held, but she knew that she was no longer alone. She had me, a woman who had risked everything to save her, a woman who had shown her kindness and compassion in a world that had been cruel and unforgiving. They stood up, brushed the dust off their clothes, and began to walk, their silhouettes outlined against the fiery glow of the burning circus. They were two women on the run, with nothing but each other and the vast, unforgiving desert stretching out before them. But they were also two women filled with hope, determined to forge a new life, a life free from chains and dragons and cruel taskmasters. They would face whatever challenges lay ahead together. As they walked, Anya finally broke the silence. "Professor Thornton, he wasn't always like this," she said, her voice heavy with sadness. "He found me when I was orphaned, promised me a life of adventure. At first, the circus was magical, filled with laughter and wonder. But then he became obsessed with the dragon. He started pushing me, demanding more and more dangerous stunts. He said it was for the good of the show, but I knew it was for his own ego, his own greed." She paused, taking a deep breath. "He told me I was indebted to him, that I owed him my life. He threatened me, said he would send me back to the streets if I didn't obey. I was trapped, with no one to turn to." Me listened intently, her heart aching for Anya's suffering. She reached out and squeezed Anya's hand, offering silent support. "You don't owe him anything," she said firmly. "You're free now, Anya. You're free to choose your own path." Anya looked at me, her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for believing in me." She had never felt so understood, so validated. Me's simple words were a balm to her wounded soul, a promise of a brighter future. The sun began to peek over the horizon, painting the desert landscape in hues of pink and gold. They reached Me's cabin just as the first rays of light touched the weathered wooden walls. It was a small, humble structure, nestled in a secluded canyon, surrounded by towering rock formations. Smoke curled lazily from the chimney, a welcoming sign of warmth and comfort. "It's not much," Me said, her voice tinged with self-consciousness, "but it's home." Anya smiled. "It's perfect," she replied, her gaze sweeping over the peaceful surroundings. After the noise and confinement of the circus, the quiet solitude of the cabin felt like a sanctuary. Me led Anya inside, where a cozy fire crackled in the hearth, casting a warm glow on the simple furnishings. A worn armchair sat next to a bookshelf filled with engineering manuals and adventure novels. A small table held a half-finished invention, a curious contraption of gears and springs. It was a space filled with Me's personality, a testament to her ingenuity and her independent spirit. "Make yourself at home," Me said, gesturing towards the armchair. "I'll make some coffee." As me busied herself in the small kitchen, Anya sank into the armchair, feeling a sense of peace settle over her for the first time in years. She was safe, she was free, and she was with someone who cared. Perhaps, just perhaps, she had finally found a place where she belonged. Over steaming mugs of coffee, Me began to open up about her own life, her voice hesitant at first, then gaining confidence as she spoke. I never really fit in, she confessed, stirring her coffee thoughtfully. The other girls were interested in dresses and dances, and I was fascinated by gears and gadgets. My pa tried to teach me how to be a proper lady, but it just wasn't me. She chuckled softly. They called me Crazy Me, said I was wasting my time with my inventions, but I couldn't help it. I saw the world differently, saw the potential for making things better, for solving problems with ingenuity and skill. Engineering, it was my escape, my passion, my way of making sense of the world. She paused, looking at Anya with a newfound vulnerability. Sometimes I felt so alone, so different. I wondered if I would ever find someone who understood me, someone who appreciated my eccentricities. Anya smiled, her eyes sparkling with warmth. I think I understand, she said softly. I always felt different too, like I didn't quite belong. Maybe that's why I was drawn to the circus, to the spectacle and the fantasy. But it wasn't real, it wasn't genuine. You're real, Me. You're brave and kind and brilliant. As they shared their stories, a deep connection formed between them, a bond forged in shared experiences of isolation and a mutual longing for acceptance and understanding. They were two lost souls who had finally found each other. The peaceful atmosphere was shattered by the distant sound of approaching horses. Me's head snapped up, her eyes narrowed with concern. That's not good, she said, her voice low. Thornton, he must have gathered his men. She ran to the window, peering out into the canyon. In the distance, she could see a group of riders silhouetted against the rising sun, their figures growing larger with each passing moment. We have to go, she said urgently, grabbing her rifle from the wall. He won't let Anya go without a fight. Anya's face paled with fear, but she didn't hesitate. She trusted Me's instincts, knew that they were in grave danger. What's the plan? She asked, her voice surprisingly steady. There's an old mine shaft a few miles from here, Me replied, quickly gathering supplies. It's abandoned, but it's a good hiding place. We can lose them in the tunnels. They scrambled out of the cabin, their hearts pounding in their chests. They mounted two horses that Me had hidden in a nearby ravine, and they spurred their horses into a gallop, the wind whipping through their hair as they raced across the rugged terrain. Me knew the desert like the back of her hand, every canyon, every crevice, every hidden path. She led Anya through a maze of winding trails, using her knowledge of the landscape to their advantage. Thornton's men were skilled riders, but they were unfamiliar with the terrain. Me used this to her advantage, leading them through treacherous canyons and across rocky plateaus, forcing them to slow down and navigate carefully. Anya, despite her elegant attire, proved to be surprisingly resourceful. She had learned a thing or two from her time in the circus, skills that came in handy during the chase. She knew how to handle a horse, how to shoot a rifle, and how to think on her feet. When Thornton's men got too close, she didn't hesitate to fire back, her shots ringing out across the desert. At one point they reached a narrow gorge, too narrow for the horses to pass through. Me quickly dismounted, pulling Anya. With her. We can't take the horses any further, she said, her voice breathless. We'll have to go on foot. They scrambled down the steep gorge, their boots slipping on the loose rocks. At the bottom, they found a hidden path that led them to a forgotten oasis, a small pool of water surrounded by lush vegetation. They drank deeply, replenishing their thirst, before continuing their journey. As dusk settled over the desert, they stumbled upon a ghost town, its buildings crumbling and dilapidated, its streets silent and deserted. It was a relic of a bygone era, a testament to the fleeting nature of fortune and the enduring power of the desert. Silver Gulch, me said, her voice echoing in the stillness. It was abandoned years ago after the silver mine dried up. No one comes here anymore. They cautiously entered the town, their senses on high alert. The buildings were empty and decaying, filled with cobwebs and dust. But they offered a degree of shelter, a place to rest and regroup before continuing their flight. Little did they know, Silver Gulch held secrets of its own, secrets that would soon be revealed. They found shelter in what appeared to be the old saloon. It was dusty and filled with cobwebs, but the roof was mostly intact, offering some protection from the elements. Me carefully barricaded the door with a fallen table and a few chairs. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, casting long shadows across the deserted streets, they tended to their wounds. Me cleaned Anya's scrapes and bruises, while Anya carefully bandaged me's burned arm. The silence was broken only by the crackling of a small fire that they had managed to build in the old fireplace. "What will you do now?" me asked softly, her gaze fixed on Anya's face. "Now that you're free." Anya hesitated for a moment, her eyes filled with a mixture of uncertainty and hope. "I don't know," she confessed. "I never had the chance to dream about the future. I was always just trying to survive, but I always dreamed of a small cottage by the sea, of quiet and peace, but also to find something I'm good at and that I can love." "Well," me said with a gentle smile, "I think you can do it." She then explained that she herself always dreamed of using her skills to help people, and now with the circus gone, maybe that could be reality. She paused and with a chuckle explained that she always dreamed of someone to share that with. As they spoke, they drew closer and closer together until a mutual understanding was reached about how they felt about each other. They seemed to realize that their bond had deepened into something more. The air crackled with unspoken feelings. Me reached out and gently cupped Anya's cheek, her touch sending a shiver down Anya's spine. "You're not alone anymore, Anya," she whispered, her voice husky with emotion. "I'm here and I'm not going anywhere." Anya leaned into me's touch, her heart overflowing with gratitude and something more, something she couldn't quite name. She looked into me's eyes, seeing a reflection of her own longing, her own desire for connection and belonging. I never thought I could feel this way," Anya confessed, her voice trembling slightly. "I thought I was destined to be alone, trapped in a world of darkness and despair." Me smiled, her eyes sparkling with warmth. "You're not trapped anymore, Anya," she said softly. "You're free and you're loved." They gazed at each other for a long moment, their eyes locked in a silent conversation that transcended words. The fire crackled merrily in the hearth, casting dancing shadows on the walls as their feelings deepened. A new feeling bloomed in their hearts, warm and tender and strong. Suddenly the sound of horses echoed through the town, shattering the peaceful moment. Thornton had found them. Their sanctuary was about to be shattered. The fight wasn't over yet. "They're here," me said grimly, grabbing her rifle. "Get behind me, Anya." Anya shook her head, her eyes blazing with defiance. "No," she said firmly. "I'm not hiding anymore. I'm tired of being a victim. I'm going to fight." Me smiled, admiration filling her heart. "That's my girl," she said, handing Anya a pistol. "Let's show them what we're made of." They positioned themselves behind the windows of the saloon, their weapons at the ready. The sound of horses grew louder, closer, until finally Thornton and his men rode into Silver Gulch, their faces grim and determined. "Anya!" Thornton shouted, his voice echoing through the deserted streets. "Come out and I promise I won't hurt you. Just give me back what you stole from me." "I didn't steal anything from you, Thornton," Anya shouted back, her voice ringing with newfound confidence. "I took back what was rightfully mine. My freedom." Thornton's face contorted with rage. "Fine," he snarled, "have it your way." With a wave of his hand, he signaled his men to attack. The final showdown had begun. The fight for their freedom and their love was about to be decided in the dusty streets of Silver Gulch. The gunfight erupted, bullets flying through the air, shattering windows and kicking up dust. Me, however, had a plan. She had spent the last few hours exploring Silver Gulch, and she had discovered that the town, despite its dilapidated appearance, still possessed some working machinery. She knew that the old mine was powered by a series of water pumps, and she had managed to get one of them working again. She positioned Anya near the window, providing cover fire, while she slipped out the back door and raced towards the mine. With her engineering skills, she quickly rigged the water pump to create a powerful spray, drenching the street in front of the saloon. The water turned the dusty ground into a muddy quagmire, making it difficult for Thornton's men to advance. She then located a rusty old ore cart and, with a few well-placed adjustments, sent it careening down the main street, scattering Thornton's men and creating chaos and confusion. The ghost town was coming alive, transformed into a deadly playground by Me's ingenuity. The pursuers were completely caught off guard by Me's clever traps and diversions. While Me worked her mechanical magic, Anya proved to be a force to be reckoned with. She had spent years performing dangerous stunts in the circus, and she had learned how to handle herself in high-pressure situations. She moved with grace and agility, dodging bullets and returning fire with deadly accuracy. She used the skills she had learned as the dragon tamer to her advantage, her movements fluid and precise, her aim unwavering. She knew how to anticipate her opponent's moves, how to use the environment to her advantage, and how to remain calm under pressure. She picked off Thornton's men one by one, her shots echoing through the deserted streets. She was no longer the damsel in distress, the helpless captive. She was a warrior fighting for her freedom, fighting for her love, fighting for her life, and she was determined to win. Her spirit soared and her determination surprised even herself. The battle raged on, but Thornton's numbers dwindled with each passing moment. Me's traps and Anya's sharpshooting had taken their toll. Finally, only Thornton remained, his face contorted with rage and desperation. He charged towards the saloon, his gun blazing, determined to take Anya with him, even if it meant killing her. Me stepped in front of Anya, shielding her from the bullets. But before Thornton could reach them, Anya acted swiftly and with determination. She raised her pistol, aimed carefully, and fired. The bullet struck Thornton squarely in the chest, and he crumpled to the ground, his reign of terror finally at an end. Silence descended upon Silver Gulch, broken only by the wind whistling through the deserted buildings. The fight was over. They had won, they were free. Anya and Me embraced, their hearts overflowing with relief and gratitude. They had faced their demons and emerged victorious, their love for each other stronger than ever. They were finally free of Thornton's control, ready to build a new life on their own terms. They had each other, and that was all that mattered. As the sun rose, casting a golden glow over Silver Gulch, Me and Anya surveyed the town. It was still a wreck, battered and broken, but it was also full of potential. "What do you think?" Me asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Should we stay?" Anya smiled, her heart filled with hope and anticipation. "I think," she said softly, "that this could be the start of something amazing." And so they decided to stay. They would rebuild Silver Gulch, transforming it from a ghost town into a thriving community once more. Me would use her engineering skills to restore the mine, to bring water back to the desert, to create a better life for themselves and for anyone else who chose to join them. And Anya would use her resourcefulness and her courage to help build a community based on freedom, equality, and love. Under the vast, starry sky they embraced, their hearts forever connected. They had found each other in the midst of chaos and danger, and they had forged a love as fierce as dragon fire. Together, they would create a new beginning, a new life filled with hope and the endless possibilities of a future together. Silver Gulch was now their home, their love was their guide, and their future was bright.